I don't know if we actually open up the mailboxes because now I know you're not supposed to do that. Maybe we tucked them in the flag. I don't know. I had another teacher who taught my son, and he accused me of sending my son in as a spy. I was like, no, he really wants to learn drums, but he made my kid cry, and my kid is not a crier. Like, so Chris drove straight up. He's like, "You're done. Get out." Like, I mean, the fastest way to grow your character is growing a business. It will stretch you and change you, and it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Well, Jen Hickle, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We've been friends a long time, and I was just so excited when you agreed to be on here. So
No,
thanks for being here.
absolutely. I love being on podcasts. I'll almost always say yes. So I don't know if that is not a compliment to you, but I love chatting with you, and I've loved our friendship over the years. And so happy to be here. It's always fun to catch up with you.
You've been in business for over 25 years.
Hmm.
You've been coaching small businesses for about 10 years.
Hmm.
You built a music school, Rogers School of Music in Minnesota.
Yep.
You built it into a seven-figure business.
Hmm.
You use systems and marketing
Hmm.
before selling it. You sold your business.
Hmm. Yeah.
You founded the Never Alone coaching program and the VA Academy, which trains virtual assistants and supports business owners.
Hmm.
You emphasize systems and messaging and business support for virtual assistants, entrepreneurs, and homeschool families. You're an author, Happy Kids Growing Biz, which people can find on Amazon, amongst other places. Um, you've studied learning styles, personality types like Myers-Briggs, Clifton Strengths, Colby, etc. And you use all of that in your coaching. So you this is one of the things I really appreciate about you, Jen, is you're always learning. And we've talked about like the personality thing. There's that goes so deep, and that's like a whole nother conversation,
Yeah.
which is fascinating.
Totally.
Um, but I think that's a really important point to make, is just this idea that as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we're always learning. We always ought to
Mhm.
be,
Yeah.
right?
Agree.
But let's go back. Let's go back to when you first started. You had your music school. When did you start it? What was that like?
Yeah. So I was actually a senior in high school, and the neighbor asked me, like, "Hey, can you teach my kid piano?" I was like, "I don't know." Just a minute. And I went and asked my piano teacher. I'm like, "Do you think I could do this?" And thankfully, he said, "Yeah, go for it," because that changed the trajectory of my life. So I was like, "Okay, sure, come on over, 10 a.m. Saturday morning." And my mom kind of went, ding, ding, ding. Hang on, this could help us pay for college. So she was a music teacher at a small Christian school, and she put up some flyers, like I think just in the teacher's lounge, even or something. And so I had three little kids to start, and they came 10, 10:30, and 11 on Saturday morning. And I went to the local, Walgreens or whatever, and got a little planner and marked down their names and checked it off when the parents paid. And instantly it was like, parts of my brain just lit up like, whoa, I love this. Not only the teaching, but the admin and just tracking that information and being all organized and everything. And then just seeing the little light bulbs in their brains come on, and their little legs are swinging at the piano bench, and they're
Mhm.
excited to get their sticker. And I thought, oh my gosh, I there's something to this. So it started with three, and then by that fall I had like 10 students, and my mom had mapped out all the numbers of, like, if you have this many students and we charge this much, then you can make your tuition payment plan for college. And so that's what I did all throughout college. I taught lessons, and I expanded to actually go to that same Christian school during the day, another day of the week. So I would come home on the weekends, teach at my parents' house, and then I would go to this school during the day, and kids would get out of class to have their lessons with me. And I just loved all of it. So other fellow students would be like, I don't get it. How are you teaching? How do you find students? Like, I want to teach, but I can't find students. Like, I'm away at college. And so another light bulb went off, and I was like, wait a minute, I could hire them to teach, And I already had a waiting list. Like I had more students just from the neighborhood, and people wanted to send their kids down the street. They didn't have to drive anywhere, right? Like they could just go to the piano teacher on the corner. So I started doing all the admin, all the billing, all the invoicing, all the, newsletters and everything. I mean, just as a freshly graduated student, I was 22. I was married. I got pregnant right away and was a mom. And I was like, okay, I can do this with a baby because a lot of it's from my computer, right? So, as much as I love the teaching, I love the admin part too. And I think that's what allowed me. Well, plus being a visionary, just entrepreneur person, I love the challenge. I love the thrill of the climb. And you mentioned always learning. And I think that's what's interesting to me is trying to scale to a new level and go, well, how do I do this? Right. Because as soon as it's boring, I'm out. Right. Like, I'm like, well, this is repetitive and stupid. Like, I don't want to do it. But if it's a
Yeah.
challenge, then I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep ascending. So, very quickly in the first, I don't know, 5 years, I think I had 10 teachers working for me. Like I scaled it very quickly. In fact, I scaled it too quickly. And I was like, I cannot handle this. I had 3 babies. I had all these teachers. You're dealing with the parent complaints and, miscommunication or whatever. So I don't know what gave me this idea. But one day I just was like, enough's enough. I raised tuition from like something pretty drastic. It was like $60 a month and I jumped to 85, and that made
Wow.
some parents quit, right? But I still made more money and then had fewer people that were complaining. They were the ones that were like, well, this isn't worth it. And I'm like, sayonara. So I knew my margins had to be bigger, and I knew I was too low because we had just been getting started. So I needed to do something drastic. And that really allowed me to get to the next level. And I kind of hovered around even 100 students for quite a while until I figured out more systems. And I guess that's the key for me. I think in order to scale, you have to be able to delegate. You have to have really repetitive systems. You can't just constantly be putting out fires. You have to get ahead of it,
Right.
right? How can we prevent this problem? And that was
Yeah.
really the key to getting then to 600 students.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
that's a leap.
Right.
Well, so how did you grow so quickly? Like, was it just word of mouth? Did you actually
I
do
did
something to get those people
advertising.
in?
Yeah, I mean, this is, of course, before Google and all the good things, social media that we can use now, but I just kind of hustled. I mean, yeah, my mom had connections at at the Christian school, but I put up yard signs just in our neighborhood. Piano lessons, phone number, I mean, just real basic. I paid my teenage sister to put flyers in mailboxes. I don't know if we actually opened up the mailboxes because now I know you're not supposed to do that. Maybe we tucked them in the flag. I don't know. But I was just like, I don't know, how do I tell people we're here? It did help word of mouth because I had some really great clients that were very connected to the neighborhood, and they would sit around at hockey and they tell, oh, you got to try this piano teacher, and I think what set me apart though, is we had a really big competitor that's still in business today. So people may know that this company, Schmidt Music, and I really could not stand Schmidt Music. It was a retail, they sold books and things, but if you wanted lessons, you go to the front desk and you say, hey, how do I get piano lessons? And they'd hand you a flyer of names and phone numbers. Like, go ahead and contact all these people. I was like, there's got to be a better way. And that's kind
Oh
of
yeah.
why I was like, well, I want to be the clearinghouse, right? Like, you can just contact one person and I will match you to the right teacher based on personality, learning styles, location. We drove to students' homes. So in my neighborhood, they would walk to me. But as I hired teachers, the teachers would drive to the house, which was less overhead, right? I didn't have to pay for the building yet. I did that later. But I think appealing to what can I do different, right? I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, how good businesses start is actually looking at something and saying, I think I could change. I think I could spin on that a little bit, right? So you have proof of concept. Like, okay, I know this is working. Schmidt Music exists, but this feels dumb to me. I feel like I can do this better. Honestly, it's that audacity, right? Like, I think I could do this better,
Right.
which is what actually grows really great businesses. And so I knew I had a product that was good, that we'd come to your home Like, that's awesome. And I also made everything more professional. I just love to do things with excellence. So right away, I mean, I'm doing a newsletter with the invoice. We used to mail the invoice once a month, but I would do a full color, entertaining, interesting newsletter because it made the parents nicer to me. Because they didn't just get a bill, but they could relate to me. I could give them tips. What did I do? Like practice tips for parents at the end of every newsletter. For years, I did a newsletter, way before any coach ever told me I should. I knew the result. If I quit doing the newsletter, people would call me with complaints. And I was like, hi, I'm a real person, like, I don't know. I just wanted that relatability. But also my family's told me that I just did everything so well. Like we had policies and procedures. They got a packet when they enrolled. I also handled all the purchasing of books. So parents didn't have to go because I saw that my mom, my teachers would say, "Okay, you're almost in level 3, go get those books." And my mom would have to make time in her schedule to go to Schmidt Music to find those books, and then if they didn't have them, well, we'll have to order them. And I saw the frustration of my teachers going, "Okay, did you bring the next level?" Well, no, my mom didn't get them yet. And I thought, here's another problem I can solve. So I did all that ordering, right? And then I set up an account with Schmidt. So I would go, I don't know, twice a month and go pick up those books. And then I would get them to the teachers, or teachers would pick them up at my home, and then they would bring them to their students, and I would just add it to the invoice. So I think we grew for all those reasons. I was solving a problem. We were super professional. We were relatable. We had a product they wanted that we came to their home. But I kept that radius small because at that time there were also other competitors popping up that they did in-home lessons, but they were sending teachers from one end of the city to the other. The teachers were exhausted from traffic, from sitting there. Like I could be teaching and instead I'm driving. So I was very specific. Like I was like, this teacher's in this neighborhood. And I would tell these parents, like, here's the openings based on your location. Like, you can have Monday at 4. Or, I mean, that's a great time, right? But, you can have 7:30. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only opening. And I did something radical at that time, too, that enrollment was only open in August. So I dealt with a flurry of enrollments because it was based on location. And I did all of that in August. And then basically you committed for the year, which later I changed that model, right? But at the time, I think it's more the principle of making it work for the problem we were solving, right? The product we were offering. I had to have specific systems set up to make that successful. So I think for all those reasons is why we succeeded. But I am a natural marketer. So I think I leaned into how do we get the word out? How do we solve a problem? Um, Super organized. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it was
Yeah.
accidental, but I think there were a lot of elements that made it successful.
Well, and I think it can be hard. I mean, it's the question in and of itself isn't really fair, right? Like, how did you grow? Because
Hmm.
in a way, everything that you said is why you grew.
Correct.
I do think that obviously it's a little bit heavy on the hand of marketing because if people don't know about you, it doesn't
Right.
matter how good your
Exactly.
newsletters are and how good
Right.
your customer service is.
Yes.
But I think that all of that does work together
Hmm.
because it's people do talk and
Hmm.
small neighborhoods and
Yeah.
all of that. So I think that that's interesting. I love that you said yard signs, by the way, because
Yeah.
that's like the thing I always harp on is
Yeah.
like yard signs. Just do it. Just
Just
try
do
it because
it.
it works.
It does.
Um, so you got to a point pretty quickly
Hmm.
where you realized you couldn't take all of these students
Hmm.
yourself,
Yep.
and so uh, you found these teachers.
Hmm.
At what point did you realize that you needed like help,
Yeah.
like not teaching necessarily,
Right.
but like admin
Next
help?
level.
Like
Yeah.
where did you where did
Yep.
like how many students did you have
Yeah.
before you realized that was a huge need and a gap in the business?
Yeah. So we did those in-home lessons for quite a few years. And then in '08, when everything like crashed, my dad lost his job. And I was like, okay, what can I do to help? And my parents have always done theater programs, like in our church, in the Christian school, all these things. And at that point, my oldest child was about to be in kindergarten. And I was like, well, I want him to do theater. I'm connected in the homeschool world. So I found this fitness place. that I was like, "Hey, could we rent this during the day?" And I decided, I talked to my parents. I was like, "Hey, how about you guys offer theater classes? Like, I'm already doing all this admin, marketing stuff. I'll find the students. You guys just teach. I know you have a good product. I know you guys are really good at this. So again, find a need, fill it. That's always my motto, and so I saw a need, found that, and that's when I kind of started drowning because there's so many more details with theater classes. And so
Mm.
then another woman approached me and was like, "Hey, I'm opening up a ballet school. You should rent the back half from me." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know." And she's like, "You can have your name on the building." And I was like, "I don't know." Because it just felt like that's a risk, right? Now you're signing a lease, right? Like I'm like, so I said, "Okay, I'll sublease from you." And I this foresight was heaven sent. I'm not even sure why I did it other than God was protecting me or something, because I didn't get my name in the building. And in some ways, like, that's a dumb move, right? But I convinced her to call it um North Ballet Academy and Performing Arts Center or something like that. So it could be the umbrella, like that could house me, but I didn't want my company on there. And
What was your reasoning for that? Why did you not
I
want your name there?
I'm trying to remember. I think I was scared I would grow too fast. That's what it
Mm.
was. I was like, if
You were scared
everybody
you'd grow too
know
fast.
yeah. I was like, if everybody knows I'm here, because I'm homeschooling, I have 4 kids. I'm like, I don't think I can
Ah.
handle this. That's so funny. Yeah. And so she opened up, and I convinced her to let me pay rent based on the percentage of my gross income I was bringing in, which did not work for her, right? Like, only a couple months in, she's realizing she's not getting the rent from me that she needs to clear her rent. So this is also kind of funny. We sent our husbands in to have a conversation. Like, we wanted to avoid the emotionalism and just the everything was running high. And so our men go in and like, "Do you think we can do this?" Yep. Like, did the negotiation, figured it out, which is so funny to me. So then that was good. So then we had a set rent, and then I was like, all right, well, now the stakes are high. Like, we gotta, it's go time, right? So
Yeah.
I actually was talking to some other business owners and in that building, and I was like, nobody even knows I'm here. Like, what do I do? And this calm, business owner 2 doors down was like, "Why don't you put a sign in the window? Like, just tell them you're there." I was like, duh. So I got big vinyl letters printed: piano, guitar, voice, big old phone number. And at the time, there was a stoplight. So people would stop at that light and they'd see that sign. And David, they started calling. The phone started ringing off the hook. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is working. And I really loved that now we had 4 rooms and parents were coming to us. So I was like, bye bye in home lessons. Like, never mind. That worked at the time, but this is awesome. I could have a spreadsheet and I could see which openings were there versus based on location and everything, right? So because we had this new building, I'm like, well, let's do it all. So I got Jackrabbit, and I also found that by another, like, I'm always like seeing what other people are doing, right? So I had seen some
Right.
art classes and I'm like looking at their website. I'm like, Jackrabbit, what's that? And I clicked on the link and was like, okay, so now we have this new enrollment software, right? So I had rooms, I had enrollment software. So I decided we are going to do everything. I started offering choirs and ensembles and art classes and music theory classes. And that's when I was
Oh.
like, I am drowning, right? So 4
Mm.
kids, homeschooling, all these classes. And I approached the ballet lady and I said, listen, we need a front desk person. We have got to have somebody else answering the calls, dealing with billing, dealing with scheduling. And she was kind of like, okay. I don't know that she was ready. That's what she told me. She wasn't really ready. But I was like, if we share the expense though, then it won't be as expensive. So I go through all the hiring process and I hired Cassie, my first front desk person. And it was like all the angels in heaven started singing because
Mhm.
she was
Yeah.
so composed and calm, and she could handle all those questions and she could enroll students when I wasn't there, right? So now I didn't have to take the phone calls. I didn't have to enroll, which freed me up to do more marketing, more expansion, all those things. Well, it was not
Now, did
fun.
she have any guidance from
Oh,
you at the
yeah.
beginning?
Oh my gosh,
So
yeah.
you had created
Yes.
SOPs for
Yes, I
her.
did.
You gave them to her.
Yep. I cranked them out. Like in a week, I wrote down all our SOPs, created an entire operations manual for this, FAQs, if people ask this, do this, how to enroll. Again, this poor ballet lady is just trying running to keep up with me. Like I think my brain just works that way, you know. So
See,
fully trained her
I
in.
think that's incredible, Jen. You're like the things that you're saying are just amazing to me, like the foresight and the
Yeah,
knowledge that you the instincts, the business instincts that you had,
right.
because when I
Right.
hired my first front desk gal, I didn't give her anything. I just said, "I need help. I just need you to take it. I just need you to, like,
Yeah.
answer the calls. Don't bother,
Right.
like, I don't wanna be bothered. I'm so
Right.
overwhelmed,"
Right.
right, with all
Right.
this, and she created a lot of them, and
Yeah,
of course,
and
we
that
modified them
is
over the
I
years,
would say
but
that's more common. And so and now that I do teach VAs because I am seeing that most people aren't like me and they're more like you, like, I just need help. A lot of people won't hire someone until they have their systems done. The reality is you're exactly right. VAs or assistants or admins or whatever, they're wired to create it. So what you did is more common, and I would say I would advise that. Get somebody because their brain is wired to think in systems. And as you train them
mm,
in, they can document what you teach them, which creates the SOPs. Right. So
right.
it's
Yep.
like, don't wait till things are perfect to start. You know, don't wait till things are organized to hire. No, get help, let them do their thing. They're organized. I'm the bridge, right? I'm the one that's I'm a weird visionary entrepreneur because I do love the details and systems as well, which is why I teach and train VAs because I get both sides, right? I really get the visionary, big picture entrepreneur that's wanting to expand and grow, but I understand system. I don't know. I just can communicate to both sides, which is why I started the
Yeah.
academy, right? So yeah, I was
How
rare.
big were you when you hired that first person, and like,
I
how many
still
students do
was
you have?
only like 130 students. You know,
Okay.
well, I guess including the theater, no, it was probably 230. It was like 230 with
Wow.
everything, with all the classes. But then shortly after, I realized I don't like sharing space. I don't like trying to be in a partnership. That was very, very difficult because I couldn't run and go as fast as I wanted to because I had this other person like, well, hang on, I don't know. And that's not good for Jen. Like, I don't want to be held back. So after 2 years at the ballet studios, when I signed my own lease, I also did not like being the boss of my parents. That's no good. I don't
That's
recommend.
fair.
It was really tricky. I was like, I really want to just have a parent relationship again. I'm like, I'll help you. Like, I'm happy to like be your daughter and give you advice. But I literally, so I gave them their own website and Jackrabbit, and then I signed up with a different program. I can't remember what it was at the time, what I chose. I just like split the companies. I was like, here you go. Bye. I don't have space for you anymore. So sorry. So they started having their classes in their basement, which is why they called it, well, I helped them name it Front Porch Musical Theater because the kids would come through their front porch to come to theater classes. And I got my own space with whatever it was, 7 rooms or 6 at the time, or 5. I don't remember. We started smaller, later expanded. And that's when I went down to 130 students again. So I took that hit because I knew if I could uncomplicate it and get rid of the partnership, get rid of theater, get rid of, music theory, all that stuff, and just focus on lessons, then it would be simpler and I could grow faster. It was just, again, I didn't have a coach. This was just all me, just instincts of figuring out
Right.
what's going to be, I mean, honestly, doable for my life too, right? Like I was like,
Yeah.
I can't, I felt so overwhelmed. And so I left Cassie with the ballet studio, much to my sadness, that I lost Cassie in the negotiations. Basically, this lady's like, if you're gonna leave me and I don't have anyone for that rent, like I at least need Cassie, even though I had done all the hiring and training of her. I was like, fine. So then I started, with my own front desk staff at the new building and very quickly needed more than one person too. We went to 2 and then 3. I really think at least 3 is kind of a sweet spot. When there's 2, it's awkward, right? Because you're like co-parenting the business sort of, and it's like, is one over the other. So in all my hiring, I always tell people, like, once you get over the hump, and if you can have more than two, if you can have three people, now you have a team, right? And you can really delegate different tasks based on their strengths. And that's what I wanted to do right away too. Like, was one of them more creative and could create flyers for me? Is one more analytical and could check numbers and details and audit things for me? So that's why I'm kind of obsessed with strengths, is because I want everyone in the right seat so they're happier, but then the quality of their work is better too because they're doing what they do best, and that really helped the growth of our school. So once we got in there at about 130 students, then we rapidly, I can't remember the numbers, but it's like we grew by like 200% the first year or something. And that's
Wow.
when, I learned about getting listed on Google. And oh my gosh, the first time that my school came up in a Google search because of the SEO I had done on my site, I was visiting my brother and sister-in-law out of state, and I was dancing around the living room. And David, I grew up a conservative Christian. I don't dance. But man, I was so thrilled. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. Like page title tags and alt text and all this stuff, and all of a sudden I was ranking. It was thrilling. So then I got obsessed with Facebook ads and Google ads and Google remarketing and all that stuff. We still did yard signs though, let me tell you, because I found this little old man who owned this land at a four-way stop, and I asked him, could I put a sign right here? And it was his property, not city property. And that thing sat there and got me so many students. And there was another one by the railroad tracks that nobody took down because the city will come by and take them down, right? If you don't have a
Right.
permit, or like if you get a permit, you can only have it up on weekends. But those two signs, the farmer sign and the railroad tracks, got me so many students because we asked, how did you hear about us? Well, I saw a yard sign. Perfect. So it was digital and non-digital that really helped the school really expand at
So
that
you got to a point to where you were growing very rapidly.
time.
So obviously
Hmm.
the constraint in the business was hiring teachers, right? Like you had to
Yep.
find teachers to
Yep.
to handle all of these
Yep.
students.
Yep.
Did you have some positive and negative
Oh yeah.
experiences with teachers?
Oh
What were
yeah.
some of your, would you say, more volatile
Oh my
experiences with
gosh.
teachers?
I mean, there's one guy who was bragging that he literally telling my front desk, I bet I could just take all my students and they would come to my house. I bet. And she's just like, uh-huh, really? Type, 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 like just trying not to react. And so then I had to let him go because I was like, dude, like that's not how this works. I had another teacher who taught my son, and he accused me of sending my son in as a spy. I was like, no, he really wants to learn drums, but he made my kid cry, and my kid is not a crier. Like, this is my most logical, strategic, you know, oldest, I don't know, just very, very cerebral. And he comes in the car crying. I'm like, what happened? He's like, he told me I'm doing everything wrong. I'm like, okay, like that's what a lesson's for. Like, what do you mean? Like, how did that make you cry? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, fix it, like teach him. So I went back in and I was trying to be really like unarming myself. I sat down. I was like, hey, I'm not your boss at all. I'm just a parent. Like, what happened? Like, Ethan's upset. And he was so defensive and he was like in my face. And he was like, I knew it. I knew you sent him in here to spy on me. I was like, no, that's not the case at all. I'm just really curious why my kid is crying. Like, can you tell me? I don't even know. I think I blanked out on half the conversation because I was just so shocked. So I just like slowly backed out of the conversation, like, okay, that's cool. Like, no worries, thanks. And then called Chris, and I was seething. I was like, you will never believe what happened. So Chris drove straight up. He's like, you're done. Get out. Like, you don't talk to my wife that way. You don't talk to the owner of the business that way, let alone a parent. Like, what are you doing? Like it was just a mess. So yeah, I learned very quickly. And I think some of the ways that I got good teachers though was similar to the reason how I started my whole business. I was like, how can I make this the best experience for them? Right? Like, how can I make
For
this
the
be
teachers.
the teachers? Like, how can I make, because we're quite a ways out. Okay. So Minneapolis, St. Paul, is the middle. That's the most populated place, of course, in Minnesota. But Rogers at that time was really the outermost suburb. So you had to drive 35, 40 minutes. If these teachers were living in Minneapolis, maybe they were in college or they just, lived in a hip city, whatever. I'm like, what's going to make them pass by 10, 15 other music schools to teach for me? So I had to really think
Mm,
about that. And so I wanted to make it fast growing that will fill your schedule, but also just like the cleanest, best environment. Um, I didn't give them everything they wanted. I mean, they wanted a Keurig and I just couldn't justify the cost of that, or they wanted a copy machine and I was like, no, like my front desk will make you copies. So it's not like I gave into their every whim, but I wanted, I don't know, I wanted it professional, warm. I gave them cubbies to put their stuff in. I, made sure the front desk was really working for them as well. Like, here's your schedule. You have a new student, very clear communication. And so then they, same thing, word of mouth, right? They started telling their friends, like, you got to work here.
mm,
This place is the best. Where a lot of other places were disorganized or dirty, or you didn't get your schedule filled or whatever. I was like, all right, how can we offset that? And then I would go speak at colleges a lot. Like I would make connections with professors and say, hey, can I come talk to
mm,
your piano pedagogy classes? And so that just became part of my like routine because those classes are often offered every other year. So I just got into, I don't know, it was like I just came up with systems of reaching out to professors that I had connections with and saying, hey, can I advertise to your students? Can you promote this for me? Can you hang it up on a bulletin board? Can I speak in your class? And that way I got a good I don't know, like inroad, I guess, to quality, especially at Christian colleges. I would just reach out and try to get really well, also just quality students, right? If the professors are recommending them to me, they're probably because this is a standout person.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so kind of referral basis of teachers too, I guess, is what helped.
What did you learn about hiring and like the whole onboarding
Hmm.
process? Just from like going from like, hey, you're a teacher, I have a student. Can you just start tomorrow?
Right.
Like what was your system and what did you
Yeah.
learn during that process of like
Yeah.
what were the good ones and how could you identify them?
Okay, great question. So I did a couple things because I had young kids. Part of the interview, I would say, "Hey, my daughter's here. Would you mind giving like a mock lesson?" Because I'd say, I know that the way you're going to talk to me in an interview is going to be different than the way you talk to a kid. At least I'd hope so. So I'm like, don't worry necessarily about what you're teaching. I'm just watching how you interact. So my kids got a kick out of that. They still talk about it. That they'd be in the waiting room, on their iPad or whatever, and I'd be like, Abigail, you're up. And so then she'd go in a room, and I would just listen because if they're like, hey, so you're Abigail, how old are you? Oh, that's awesome. What grade are you in? What do you like to do besides piano? Oh, horses? Oh, I love riding horses. And immediately I was like, okay, boom, we've got a good relator to kids. Like I wanted to see that.
Mm,
And then I'm like, just teach a concept. And I just wanted to see how they taught. So that helped. Also, I learned right away through, bad experiences of if a teacher left, which is of course the hardest part about running a music school, is they can be transient or on to the next thing, or I decided to get my
yeah.
master's, or I'm in a band and that's taking off, and that coming and going is always so challenging. But if that teacher had a full load of students, 2 3 days, and I hired a new teacher, I was like, here you go, here's 3 days, that backfired so many times. And so I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So I was like, how can I do this like shorter? How can I like prove teachers? So I started splitting up their schedules, or a new teacher wouldn't get a full load if they got some of that. Maybe if that old teacher had 3 days, then I would split their schedule between three new teachers. Or I started saying, hey, why don't you sub? So when a teacher's gone, if you can come in, and it's low risk, right? You're not going to ruin a student in one lesson. But if the student comes out smiling and they really enjoyed that teacher, then my front desk could get back to me and go, hey, I think this one's a winner. Also, did they respond to our emails? If they're on our sub list, did they get back to us? Were they available? Were they prompt? Were they good communicators? Um, so in that way, I was sort of like testing them out before actually
Right.
committing to them. And all my teachers were contractors. And so, I'm like, hey, can I just contract you to sub? Can I contract you for this? And that way, just like if you're hiring a lawn guy, do they do good work? Like you have to see the output of their work to know if you want to expand services, right? And I mean, all my front desk staff are employees, so I have experience with both employees and contractors. But
Right.
I think just letting them, it's almost like your kids too. Like you little by little, like you shadow them unloading the dishwasher, and then a couple times later you let them do it, and then you come back and inspect it, right? And so we have to continually like let out the rope a little bit, give them an opportunity to prove themselves, and then you go back and you check and make sure the quality is what you want it to be, and then you expand responsibilities, right? Like you did such a good job doing that that now I'm going to give you more. And I think that principle of kind of like trusting teachers slowly, honestly, was probably the best move, because then the ones that were trustworthy, they could get full schedules, they could get tons of students, and when the ones that stayed, because sometimes it's like you got to prove to me that you're going to stay for a little bit before I give you a ton of students. um
Right.
yeah, so
Did you require
yeah.
a degree?
I did at first, was hands down 100% requirement, and I marketed that all of our teachers had degrees, because anyone can just say they're teaching guitar. And I thought
Right.
it definitely elevated it. As times have changed and there is more free instruction online and it's more accessible, and sometimes also I realized that if a teacher was still in college, they actually made a great teacher. I mean, that's what I did, right? I mean, I started teaching before I had my degree. So as long as they were, it's almost like, okay, well, I know you've got 2 more years to before you finish their degree. Great, come teach with us. You know, the worst situations were teachers getting their masters because they thought they could
Mm.
teach, but then it never worked. They're like, I've got to be here. I don't know what it was, if they were sometimes teachers' assistants for undergrad, or seems like they were always like doing performances or juries or something, and they never had a consistent schedule. So that didn't work so well for me. Or it's almost like they were educated beyond relating to children or something. I'm not sure, but those did not work for me personally. So I really looked more at their relatability to kids than
Mm.
if they had that degree. um, but definitely I always had teachers on staff that did have a bachelor's or master's for our higher level students, because I wanted to be able to have students ascend. And if they outgrew a certain teacher, fine. That's no big deal. Maybe a teacher's really good with beginners, but when you get to a more advanced level, you refer them to a teacher across the hall, which was great. So we didn't have that competition. Like all of our teachers got to know each other. So they could say, like, maybe I'm not the best fit, but you should try Becky, because maybe she's more teaches the way you learn. So we had a good camaraderie that way as well.
So as you grew, I think most schools deal with this issue, but as you grow, you have hundreds of students now
Yeah.
coming through. Keeping teachers aligned with the culture and the
Hmm.
mission
Yeah.
of what you originally intended
Right.
can be such a hard thing to do because
Yeah.
you can't touch everybody in the
Right.
in the organization at a certain point. It just
Right.
gets too
Of
big.
course.
And so how did you maintain that? How did you maintain the culture of your
Yeah. I
school?
mean, for me, the importance comes on the front end. So all that culture fit was in the hiring process, because I mean, they weren't employees, so I couldn't continue to train them. So it was really important that I probably had usually three interviews with a teacher. For sure two. The first line of defense was always a phone interview first, just to vet them. And then if I liked what I heard, then we met in person. Um, but the third one is often like, hey, why don't you come back and either teach my kid or sub? It's almost like the subbing was still an interview, right? But in the front end of the phone conversation and then the first in person conversation, it's like, what do you believe about teaching music? What are your goals? What do you want to see? Why do you love teaching? Because it's less about how much music they know, but like I wanted to hear them say they just loved the light bulb moment. That was actually the phrase I was looking for. If they could say that, if they could find joy in a student grasping concept, we were on the right road, right? But if all they wanted to do is talk about their experience and how good of a
Mm.
musician they were, that doesn't make you a teacher, right? Like, just because you're good at math does not mean you should be teaching math. That's my pet peeve, right? Like, it drives me crazy. Like, you are smart. You cannot convey this to your students. And so musicians sometimes can get
Isn't
that
that so true,
way.
though?
Yes.
It's like there's such a difference between a performer and a teacher, and I think
Yes.
anyone that owns a school and
Yes.
has had hired teachers
They
gets
know that.
this
Yeah,
thing, right? Like,
exactly.
because well, and even for me personally, like, when I was in college, I was such a performer.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted to be on stage. I
Yeah.
didn't wanna teach,
Right.
right? Like, I didn't wanna take the time to, like, tell seven-year-old Susie
Yeah.
how to find the black keys on the keyboard.
Right.
I wanted to be up on stage, getting all the
Yeah.
glory and all of that,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
And so you kind of have to bring it back to I mean,
Mhm.
everyone has to deal with this. Like some people,
Yep.
it's like, no, I wouldn't be caught dead on stage. Like I want to be in the
Right.
teaching room. But
Right.
like there is it's a different
It's
animal. They're
different.
not the same thing.
That's
Just because
right.
you've traveled the world and
Nope.
performed, in Europe does
Nope.
not automatically qualify you. And
Yeah.
this is, by the way, this is my issue with of the degree thing. And I get what you were
Mhm.
saying, like you wanted
Yeah.
them to be able to teach and have the knowledge, but like for
Right.
me, I totally didn't require a degree. But part of it was because I didn't get a degree.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Like I
Yeah.
went to college, right? But I
Right.
didn't actually finish. I got too impatient, right?
Yep.
But I didn't get a degree.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where it was like, why would I require
Right.
something that I didn't even have myself,
Absolutely.
from these teachers? And I couldn't even tell you like, I could not tie any measure of more success
Sure.
with my teachers
Yep.
that had degrees versus the ones that
Nope.
didn't, because you
Absolutely.
nailed it. It
Yep.
was more about their ability to connect and relate
Yes.
to these kids.
Exactly.
Are they willing to be silly? Are they
That's
willing to,
right.
like, take an interest?
That's right. The
So, anyway,
creativity,
yeah.
add can you add color? Can you add literally color, hands-on, especially, I
Yeah.
mean, in 25 years of doing this business, like kids' attention spans have changed. Like it's just a fact of life, right? They have iPads and technology. And so I loved watching my teachers honestly soar beyond what I did as a teacher, right? Because I thought nobody could be as good of a teacher as me. Like, because I was really, really good. I still love teaching. But these teachers that were younger than me, they were able to keep up and go, you know what? I'm going to sign this fun app. And then they can practice in a different way because they're practicing naming notes or intervals or different things, different interactive ways of you know morphing with the times and or getting kids off the bench or off their chair to move around and jump and do whatever necessary. Can you relate to autistic kids or super introverted kids? Can you keep up with an ADHD kid? Like, we have to be able to meet kids where they're at, and that's what I love about music lessons, like one-on-one lessons of any kind. You can tailor it to what that student needs, but it's a unique teacher that is able to do that. And that's really what I was looking for, right? Like, that was my priority. Is could they flex and not just teach their way, but teach what the student needed? What I'm looking for in teachers is the ability to teach to any student, whether they have ADHD or autism, or they're super introverted. They need to get off the bench, off the chair. They need to move around. They need to use technology.
Yeah.
I think, not just teaching the way you teach, but to really take each individual student and their needs into consideration. That's the magical unicorn that I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
And my school
Yeah.
became known for that because I valued education, teaching over the performance, or like, cuz you have different music schools, and I'm not saying one's better than the other. Like, you do you, and your community, and it's often a match with the demographics, right? Like, my town was very much like two income households. Like, these parents are working. These are like, they're not just blue collar, but they're still like very hardworking versus super affluent. Like, even where I started my music school, none of the moms worked. Their husbands all made plenty of money, and the moms like just ran all the activities. And so it was a different, vibe. So I knew that Rogers School of Music needed to be more down to earth versus like, my husband does marketing and builds websites and SEO and Google ads for music schools as well as other industries. And we know there are some really affluent music schools that they are like, they built their music school on extremely classical, extremely
Hmm.
difficult type. That's their vibe, right? Like, they're more elite. And then you've got the more rock schools where it's all about getting into a rock band or whatever. Like, choose your vibe, know your people, what do they want? But for me personally, it was much more child-centered, education-centered. So I needed my
Mhm.
teachers to match the vision of my school. And if they matched it, then my marketing worked, right? Because then I'm doing the marketing, but I needed them to fit under that umbrella, so that if a parent comes and signs up, they're getting what they responded to in the marketing. If they wanted the super strict Russian teacher, like that's not us. You can go get that. She's teaching in her home in one city over. That's great. That's fine. But our school had a different vibe. Not that we didn't value excellence in teaching, it just was also fun and stickers and prizes and stuff as well. Because my goal was just that every student should get a chance to try music lessons. Everyone, just try it. If you don't like it, that's fine. But like, if you're going to make your kid try soccer and sports, make them try music because maybe that's their thing. And parents
R
would be like, oh, they're
right.
not doing well in school. I might pull them from music. I'm like, no. If they're excelling in music, this might be their thing. And maybe school comes really hard for them. Don't pull them. Get them an hour lesson instead. Like maybe they're excelling at drums or guitar or bass or something. Yeah. And sometimes parents aren't musical, so they don't know, right? But like everyone deserves a chance to try in case that's what makes this kid's whole world light up and changes their future, honestly. And they can have a teacher to relate to, right? A one-on-one teacher who cares about them and their goals. That's life changing for some students to get to do that every week. Like better than therapy, honestly. Like it's music. It's so cool.
Yeah, no, I remember, I didn't teach for very long, but when I did, I remember I even had some adult students that would even say, "This is my weekly therapy session."
Seriously.
'Cause there is yeah, I think there is something to be said
Yep.
about that. Okay, so you had this awesome school. I
Hmm.
mean, clearly, you had it
Yeah.
dialed in, you had a great team, you had a system for everything, and then you decided to sell.
Yeah.
And
Kind of funny, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, we all have our different reasons, and
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has, yeah, a reason for why they would sell or why they'd
Yeah.
wanna move on. But, so instead of going into, like, why you necessarily sold,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about the process? Like,
Sure.
because I think a lot of school owners are like, "Oh, there's all these people looking to buy schools out there." It's, like, become a thing in our industry
Yeah, it
now where it's
has.
like there's all these people that wanna buy schools, right?
Mhm.
So but no one knows, I mean, unless you've actually sold,
Yeah.
nobody knows what it's like to
Right,
actually
right.
sell a
Yep.
music school and what the process looks like, and,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I've done some work with talking about this, but I'd love to hear from you, like,
Yeah.
what was the process like for you
Yeah.
when you finally got to that point?
Yeah. I mean, it had been like a seed in my heart for a couple years. Like, I think I'm ready for the next mountain to climb. And that's really the bottom line of why I sold, is because, again, I'm always looking for the next challenge. And so we had systemized the heck out of it. It was running almost without me. And I was like, well, now I'm bored,
Yeah.
and I need a new challenge. So I knew that I could safely put it in someone else's hands and it would continue to run, which it has, still is, it's doing great. But I think I had to kind of poke around. Like, you kind of have to look underground, like, who is interested in buying schools and what would that look like? And will they carry my vision into the future? Like, I didn't want somebody to get it and change it or kill it, or, that'd be terrible. So it was some investigating on my part. And then I think really it does come down to systems though, right? Like, our sales process went really well because I was able to say, listen, you have these front desk people, they're all completely trained, we have these SOPs, we have all of these things in place. Here's the list, here's the short list of what we're still doing, so that the buyer knows what are they coming into that now gets moved to their plate. And so that was all the marketing for us, which was massive, right? We were very good at marketing, but the buyer knew, like, okay, they had systems set up for marketing, so okay, check. And then it was really, every Friday we had a meeting with the manager, and it was troubleshooting, right? Like, what are the issues, solving those issues. I love the EOS, entrepreneurial operating system.
Oh,
Are you
yeah.
familiar with that?
Love that.
Yeah, so we used all
Mhm.
of those
Gino Wickman.
techniques. Yep. And you know what is the book? So you've rocket fuel, and then the other one, um,
Traction.
traction. We followed
Yeah.
traction, right? And so we had the
We did too.
once a week meetings and then the once a month meetings. And so I think that made our business very enticing to buy,
Mm.
because things were so clearly documented, processes were there, systems were there. So it was sort of an interview process that we were interviewing the potential buyer. And then we hammered him. I remember we were in the car for whatever reason, and we were on a phone call, and I was drilling him with questions like, will you do this? And what will happen with this? And whatever. And so then he passed my test. And then it came down to numbers, and so we're like, all right, well, what will you offer? And he's like, well, I got to see your numbers. So then there's an
Yeah,
element of trust, right? Because you're being very vulnerable to open up
right.
your books, right? And to show profit and loss and the last few years, and taxes and what you've actually made and all that stuff. But my husband's very good
Well,
at
right,
all that.
but one of the things I love about what you just said
Hmm.
is you were grilling him.
Yeah.
You were asking him,
Yes.
like, "Are you worthy of buying
Yeah.
my school?" It's, like, so weird, and I remember
Uh-huh.
feeling that same way
Yeah.
when I sold as well. It was
Yeah.
like the script kinda gets flipped,
Yeah.
like, usually you think of when you're buying something,
Right.
like, the seller has to prove to the buyer that,
Right.
but it's actually when you're buying a business, it's the
You know what it
opposite.
reminds
The
me of,
the buyer
David?
has to prove it.
It reminds me of my kids getting married, right? That
Mm,
they were dating these people, but when they came to introduce them to us, we were kind of like, all right, tell us about your intentions, sir, or whatever. It's like,
mhm.
do you have a job? Do you have it? Like, you're grilling this person to make sure they're worthy of your daughter. Well, I want to make sure this buyer's worthy of my school, my baby. I built this thing,
Right.
right? I built this thing from nothing. And so, yeah, it is like before you let them go. And it very much felt like letting my child go. When people would say, like, how could you sell your school? Like, it's like my child, but it was time for them to fly. And it was time for me to do new things. I didn't think I'd get emotional. And it was the right choice. But it's hard, and you want to make sure that it's going to the right person that is going to do justice to it. And for several years, so it's been 6 years now, almost 5 years, 5 years since we sold. And for the first years, I still got together with my manager. Like, I still like went out to dinner with her. I'm like, tell me how it's going. Because I wanted to know, and she's still there. And
Yeah.
now we haven't seen each other for a couple years because I'm like, I can rest assured, like, things are going well. But yeah, I think the key is to really flip it and interview the person who wants to buy it. So I think it really does come down to both sides, right? Like, you're vetting them, and then he comes in with the offer, and then you do some negotiations. You have to make sure the numbers are where they need to be, right? For both
Right.
sides. But just making sure it's the right fit, the right timing, right? So maybe you might look into it, and maybe it's not, maybe you're information gathering, and maybe it's not yet. um, but I think the bottom line for our sale is it went quite smoothly and quite quickly because of the systems we had built. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really the bottom line for why it worked for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, no, same here. It was definitely it was all about systems. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about. It's like, oh, well, how much money am I making? How much profit?
Right.
All of that. But at the end of the day, if you put yourself in the buyer's shoes, like, would you want to inherit something that required like all your blood, sweat, and tears, and you have to
Right.
step in and now become so,
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's even a phrase for that in the industry, in the acquisitions industry, which is key man risk, right? Like,
Hmm.
you don't want to buy a business that is solely reliant on one person,
That's
even
right.
if that person's not even the owner. Like
That's
you
right.
want to make sure that. So,
Yes.
you felt pretty emotional. You were talking about that earlier. You got kind of
Yeah.
emotional. What do you think it was that kind of tugged at that the most? What was it that was the
Yeah.
hardest for you?
I didn't expect to get emotional, but I think it's just, in this conversation, going back to remembering, like, starting it, like,
Mm,
it it was my baby, and it's my pride and joy. And yet I knew it was time for something new, and that's good and true. Just like my kids growing up, graduating, getting married, it still can be good, and you can still miss when they were babies. It's both can exist at the same time. In fact, I think that's pretty normal. So, do I regret selling my school? No, not at all. Not at all. And I love what I'm doing now. But of course, it's just going to tug on my heartstrings because it's what I created. I grew it. I nurtured it. I learned so much, and it was not all easy. I mean, the fastest way to grow your character is growing a business. I mean, there's just, my
Yeah.
goodness, it will stretch you and change you. And, just like, again, like climbing a mountain, it's not easy, but it's worth it. And I'm so grateful for everything I learned along the way.
Was there anything about the sale that you wish you'd done differently looking back?
I wish we'd asked for more money, honestly, because you just never know, right? Like, you never
Right.
like, I
Yeah.
wish we had negotiated a little bit more. Um, but that's all. Otherwise, I feel like the timing was right. It was the right thing to do. It freed up more space because I was already coaching. We already had a marketing agency, but I could not see how could expand either while we were still had the music school. Like, it was just, no matter how I wrote out the year, like, we do forward planning, and it was just like it never could keep. I could not expand my coaching while still doing all the enrollment periods and all the recitals and everything. So I
Mhm.
knew this had to be the next step in order to expand the next thing, which has been able to happen. Now I can offer in-person retreats, and I can teach more. I do workshops. So honestly, that's actually kind of interesting, is that I started my music school with teaching, and now I'm back to teaching, but I'm teaching
Right.
business principles. I'm teaching
Yep.
people how to build their business, because that's what I can't get away from. Like, that's my heart is, and my music school had become so systematized that I was like, what am I even doing here? Like, I'm just solving tiny issues, like the 1%, that are frustrated. Like, I don't know. I felt like a principal. Like, they were just dragging the problem children into my office. I was like, this is not even fun anymore. Like, so I wanted a new challenge, and I wanted to get back to being face to face with people. And that's the coaching aspect, which I've been able to do. So, not really any
And
regrets.
after working with so many business owners and
Hmm.
coaching so many business owners and talking with them and working with them, if you were to boil it down, what would you find that they need the most?
Ooh. Um, Honestly, I think they need to understand themselves more.
Mm.
That is the greatest need that I see in working with business owners, is we all have that vulnerability spots. We all have things that we have shame around. And honestly, our shame is often connected to our weaknesses. But if I can break that shame by going, well, hang on, hang on. You said you're a hot mess, but you're brilliant in all these other areas. You're strategic, you're driven, you're an achiever, and I can shine light on their strengths. And I go, let's just turn up the volume on that. And why don't we hire people to fill in your weaknesses? You don't need to keep working on your bookkeeping skills. Let's get a really amazing rock star bookkeeper, you know, and those light bulbs that go off, like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I'm not broken. I'm not like malfunctioning. No, you got to get back into your gifts and strengths of what you probably built your business on. But that's what's going to allow you to get to the next level. If you surround yourself with the right team. So I think it starts with understanding yourself. You understand your strengths. Then who do you need? So I think you've heard of the six working geniuses. That's my newest favorite thing.
Oh, I love that.
Oh my
I love
gosh.
that.
I think it's
Yeah.
so excellent. And I love it because it even shows how they each fit in with each other, right? If you're at the top and you've got wonder, then you need tenacity at the end, somebody who's going to finish the stuff that you start or that you invent or whatever. I do not have galvanizing. I don't want to rally the troops and make them do things. I am an achiever on my own. Like, get out of my way and I will run and succeed so fast. So it's hard for me to be like, come on, guys, we can do it. Like, that is my working frustration, right? So understanding
Sure.
that, then it's like, all right, well, then I need somebody on my team who can be like rallying the troops. And, I've got a whole team of VAs that work for me, but I don't want to galvanize them. I want my manager to be in charge of making sure everybody's getting done. Or frankly, just I don't hire people who need prodding. I hire people with a strength of responsibility. What they say they'll do, They do, because I don't have
Right.
time to come behind you and, like, check your work, you know? So that's for me, that's why I've built so much of my coaching on personalities and strengths and understanding those
Yeah.
things, you know? And I did become a Clifton Strengths certified coach because I really wanted to get into that and understand it the most. So that's one of my tops. I love Colby too for different reasons. It shows you how you work, and I really think we can decide who to hire based on your Colby. But I think Six Working Geniuses is slowly, possibly replacing Colby because it's so much more like understandable for the normal person. Most people can't
Yeah.
understand Colby. I'm
Yeah.
just a major nerd and read their 500-page book or whatever it was. So I really get it, but I think it's more attainable, the Six Working Geniuses, and can show you who you need on your team. So
You
yeah,
know,
that's kind of my thought.
I love I love that. You know, I think it's so true that we beat ourselves up
Mhm.
more so than even acknowledge
Yeah.
our strengths.
Yes.
You know, I mean, unless you're some kind of a narcissist with
Right.
an ego the size of Jupiter,
Right.
whatever, like let's put
Right.
them in their own category.
Yes.
But like most business
Yeah.
owners are only thinking
Mhm.
about the thing that they're lacking,
Yeah.
the thing that's
Yeah.
missing, they're like you said, the shame
Mhm.
points. Most business owners are in that world, and so I love that you say that, you know, like just coming alongside them. Sometimes
Mhm.
all they need to hear is just a highlight.
Yeah.
Hey, you're really good,
Yeah.
you know, at this.
Yeah.
You excel
Yeah.
in casting vision for
Mhm.
people. You're, you know, building people up.
Yes,
It's amazing
exactly.
how I, you know, and I think, and I'm not going to speak for women, but I would say for
Mhm.
men in general, it's just a constant like, you know, you need to be better, you need to be
Mm.
better, you need
Yeah,
to be better at this area, this area, this area.
sure.
And you know, being a highly, like, I'm a pretty driven person,
Mhm.
and but it's still really difficult for
Mm.
me to ignore, like, to look at the things that I'm really good at
Yeah.
and say, hey, I'm going to hire, or I'm going to put, you know, other people in place at these
Mm.
areas
Mhm.
that I'm not good at.
Yep. Right, and,
um
you know, David, as you're talking, like, it's reminding me, I think it's almost, I don't know, maybe it's everybody, but is it an entrepreneur thing? Because we are used to looking at what needs to be fixed, right? Like, that's probably why we started a
yeah.
business. Like, what is broken? How can I fix it or improve it? So is that what we're doing in
Mhm.
our own lives? Like, what is broken? What's my weakness? Right?
Yeah.
Versus, and also maybe if you're like in normal corporate America, you've got your lane and you're like, well, this is my thing and this is what I do really well. Versus in entrepreneurial land, we're always chasing that climb, right? So we like the challenge. So it almost feels like, well, my weakness is a challenge to conquer. And when I tell people, no, 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 actually, no, let's turn up, you know, let's more emphasize what you're good at, stay in that the vast majority of your time, hire to surround yourself. They're just like, oh, you're right. But we don't think of that. I don't know. And also, like, when a project's completed, I'm like, well, it's just done. Check, gone. So if
Right.
it's easier, it's completed, it's out of my vision. So I don't think about the things I'm really good at because it's like,
Right.
well, no, I don't want to talk about that. Like, well, of course I'm good at that. Like, I don't, you know, let's move on
Right.
to the challenge. So we dismiss it really easily. A lot of us do. Um, yeah.
I also think that there's something about entrepreneurs that's uniquely different than a business owner,
Oh,
right? A
yes.
business owner is a great operator. They're really good at just
Yes.
at sticking to that thing.
Exactly.
The affliction of an entrepreneur is the creativity.
Yes.
Like, we get so distracted with all these ideas, and then we don't have any patience to actually, you know, accomplish them,
Right.
right? And it's like this constant cycle
Yeah.
that is hard to get out of as an
Hmm.
entrepreneur.
But that's why we need
What
a
do you
team,
say to
though.
somebody like that?
Well, because that's when you need a team. Because yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I love creativity. Okay, so right now, okay, my last baby just graduated. I've got no kids at home. This is weird. This is new. This is strange. I homeschooled. So, like, what on earth am I going to do with my time? So, I have not made a quilt in 20 years since my third baby was born, right? I'm back into quilting. David, I just counted last night. I have 8 projects going on. I finished 4. Okay, I was like making myself laugh. I'm like, this is a physical demonstration of how I do my business too, right? 8 things in the
That's right.
works, 8 unfinished things. But I love jumping from project to project, or getting a bunch of them to the same level. Like I do the quilt tops, and then I need to layer them, and now I've got a whole bunch in line that need to be quilted. Well, that's a hard part. It's hard to finish because sometimes the end is boring and tedious and like not exciting. But for me, the thrill of finishing is a thrill. So yesterday I
Mm,
finished 2 small things because I wanted the dopamine of I finished that. Right now, not all entrepreneurs are like that. Some entrepreneurs just like to keep starting. They're opening boxes, right? Everybody's slightly different, but I would say the best cure for an entrepreneur is partnership. Get an admin, get somebody who can manage your email and your schedule and the boring things, right? Hire a bookkeeper, get that off your plate. But then also get people to dream with, and then make sure that you have finishers. You've got people with 6 working geniuses that have tenacity, that can push that thing across the finish line. Maybe if I need to, I can outsource the final part of my quilting, right? I don't right now. I feel stubborn and like I'm gonna finish it. But even in business, sometimes you have that stubbornness, and then when it becomes boredom, that's when you pass it off. Like as long as you're still in it, as long as you're still enjoying the struggle, go for it. But if you want to actually continue to scale and grow, you got to bring people with you. And that's what I've done along the whole way. Like I've never done anything completely solo. I've always had somebody else that I can delegate tasks to that are not enjoyable to me, because otherwise I'm going to get nothing done. Right? You have to have somebody else. And then also I think comes up in the VA Academy and everything is people don't want to delegate because they feel bad. Like, well, I hate to do this task, so I'd hate to delegate it. No, you don't understand. Some people are complete dorks and nerds. They love
right.
it. Just because you hate it does not mean everybody hates it. The very thing that you think is miserable. Some of these VAs are like, oh, my heart's just singing at making a spreadsheet look all perfect and formatted. It's like, what is wrong with you? Right. But I love
Right.
whatever's wrong with you. That's like a new phrase I've seen online. Like, I love whatever's wrong with you. That's how I feel about certain VAs, right? Like, let them have the joy of doing the thing that drives you crazy, right? It's really, we work so much better when we can work together in community and start small, right? Just start them for a few hours a week. They can grow with you, right? Because if they allow you
Hmm.
to finish things, then you're going to make more money. And then they can get more hours as you have more hours as you have more money to pay them. So I feel like it works in tandem. I don't know. I'm getting really passionate about this, David. I can't help it. I'm getting really like, this is just my jam. I love talking about
Hey, I'm there with you. I'm totally there with you. So what's something you wish business owners would just stop doing immediately? If you could speak
Okay.
to all business owners,
Yeah.
just stop doing this.
Mm. Stop getting every single email. Just stop it.
Mm,
Start a new email address. Okay. So if your email address is jen@businessname.com, start a new one. Now it's called, now it's Jen Hickle at businessname.com, and tell no one. Zero. So you've made yourself a new inbox. You put your VA on the email and they sort it for you. They forward you the emails that only you can deal with. They will probably create subfolders and folders and rules and blah, blah. That's none of your business. Let them do their nerdy thing. Okay. It has nothing to do with anything. And then you use that new email address to sign up for only the things that matter. So I have certain inboxes. I mean, I've got multiple inboxes. I've got like 6, right? So that's my natural way of sorting as well. My family does not know my business email address, nor will they ever learn my business email address, right? That is separate. So I know my Gmail, that is going to be casual, probably not urgent things. And then I've got certain inboxes where I'm still CC'd on it. So my admin may get it, but I'm seeing it pass through me. And we just do that with redirects and rules and different things. And then I've got my special inbox that if something comes in there, I know it's important. And my clients don't even have that email address, right? Like there's a buffer. So getting a buffer. So if this person is manning your emails, they're also like, well, okay, I said buffer, but let's make it butler. Okay, pretend like you've got a mansion and you've got a butler answering the door. Hello, may I help you, sir? Yes, one moment. Please come into the foyer and I will gather, and they go get you for the visitor. Like you should not be answering your door, essentially. Put some distance so people do not have direct access to you. It will save your sanity. You'll be able to get back into wonder, creativity, dreaming, big picture, whatever. And your family. Don't neglect your family. That was my driving force as well in setting up systems and delegating and hiring, was because I could not delegate being a mom. I didn't want to, right? Like I was the only one that could have my kids' hearts. I wanted to make sure I had space for that. So that was my driving force to make sure my business was a well-oiled machine, and which is what we heard from all teachers, all parents, everybody. This thing is a well-oiled machine. Yes, it is, because I want to be home with my kids. So that was my priority. So getting your priorities in straight, in order, making sure somebody else is the buffer. Who is the first line of defense that everybody's talking to, and then this one person is the only one that gets access to you. That has saved my sanity. But I think if you can, because most people don't want to give up their email, David, like they freak out, they panic, right? And I got to talk them through
Yeah.
that. Like it worries them. And I'm like, you know what? There's all kinds of transparency we can put into place and checks and balances. You don't want to do blind delegation, right? You still want to be able to inspect what you expect. Like you need visibility. You don't just hand somebody your business and then like go traipsing away, right? Like just like a babysitter, like you want to slowly hire a babysitter, maybe during the day, maybe when you're still there, and then maybe for a few hours in the afternoon before you ever trust into the evening or even an overnight. Like who would you trust besides the grandparents? And sometimes not even grandparents are trustworthy, right? But like, if you're blessed to have really great parents, then they can take an overnight, but you would not just give anyone your kids
Yeah.
overnight,
Right.
right? Well, don't just give anyone your business. Start small. Start with a really, don't even start with email. Start with another project. Start with something very like, I need this Google Sheet organized, formatted, whatever, so that you can see the result. You want it to be a project where you can oversee it and you're not micromanaging them, but you're seeing when they're done. But also, how did they communicate with you? Did they ask you too many questions and it drove you crazy? Did they not ask you any? Did they take forever? Did they tell you when they were finished? All of that is part of the interview, just like with the teachers that we're talking about, right? Like I needed to see them in action before I gave them a full schedule. Same with VAs that I hire. I got to see them in action. I got to make sure they're driving with me. They fit my company culture before I give them more and more responsibility. Then now, I mean, I've had my same VA for 10 years. Like I trust her explicitly. But like that took a long time to build. And so now any new VAs, I start small. But it will be the key to your sanity. Your key to your growth is having a team. And that way you get to stay in your strengths. You hire them for their strengths, you know? Don't just hire anybody too. Don't just hire somebody because you feel bad for them and you want to offer them a job. Like make sure their strengths fit your needs.
If you look back to your younger self, right? 25 years ago, and let's say you're sitting across the table from your younger self, what would your advice be?
Don't give up. You're gonna hit hard things. It's worth it. Keep going. Don't doubt yourself so much.
Mm.
I think that's, if I could change anything, if I could like go back in time to change the outcome, I think it would be like, Jen, you are a lot more talented than you even know. But I don't know that I would have believed myself either, though, is the problem, right? But I lived with way too much self doubt, and I just read the book Fawning like way too many times, just sort of melting into the background or making myself more neutral to keep other people happy. I wish I would have learned about that sooner, because yeah, I have a big personality and maybe not everybody can handle that. But I think at this age, I'm like, well, like, what is it? Elise Meyer says, if I'm too much, go find less, right? Like, I
Mm.
need to be in rooms where people want me to be my full big personality. And yeah, of course, there's wisdom. There's times I dial it down, of course, but I want to be all me. And in my coaching business, like the more and more and more I've let myself be me, I'm attracting the right people. They want to be around me. They
Right.
value me for so sometimes I'll apologize, like, "Oh, sorry guys, I just got like really firm there. Like I was just really telling you the way it is." And they were like, "We love that. We love when you shoot straight and just tell us exactly what we need to know." But I had other clients who couldn't handle that for a while. So I felt like I had to soften myself, but it's like, "No, try to be foolproof and then you'll attract the right people who want that." If I'm always morphing and changing, then I'm not actually getting the right people who need me in their life. So that's been a lesson. I wish I would have learned that a little earlier, but maybe it's just the lesson you learn with experience, and age. I'm not sure if
Right.
I could have absorbed that earlier, but that's definitely the lesson I'm learning now. And I just want to be all me. I want to be fully me, and I am having the time of my life with the VAs that I coach. And these are go getters. And I've got a mastermind, and so we've got people ascending in the program. They can handle helping a huge music school. They can handle helping a huge business because they've got what it takes. And now they have a team. So that's been really fun, um, to realize, like, because there's a wide variety of VAs. I mean, what's a VA? Like, it's a huge umbrella, right? And
Right.
so I thought it was this one thing, and it felt like teaching beginner piano students, right? Like, you got to start with the beginners, but I'm also like kind of getting sick of, middle C. Well, no, it turns out some of these students keep going and going and going, and it's really fun to coach advanced students, just like teaching advanced piano students. So it's been very neat to see the parallels, which tells me, I'm doing the right thing, right? I'm doing the thing that I'm called to do. And just like the music school was right then, this is right now. And not everybody's going to go on to be a coach. I'm not saying that. It's not an easy business to build, but I'm really glad that all my experience has led me here. And I'm glad for all the lessons, and I'm glad I get to help other business owners. That's my biggest joy, is getting business owners to understand their strengths, how they're wired, and help them get a VA. So I do a matching service, that if anyone's listening that does need more help, more of a team, you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to help connect you. Just like I connected parents to teachers, now I'm connecting business owners to VAs. Like, that's part of what I do. I guess I'm a matchmaker. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. So, okay, you've talked about the VA Academy. Let's talk about that. So, what is it?
Yeah.
How did you put it together?
Yeah.
And let's go from there.
So if you've ever heard of Stu McLaren, it's a membership based business. So it's
Love
online,
Stu.
yeah, he's great. Just a model of, people come to me who, and I've leaned into the niche of Christian homeschooling moms because that's what I am. And so we have that in common. We have common values. These people, sometimes we're on Zoom calls and they've got kids crawling all over them. They might be making lunch, whatever. That's cool. I can handle it. I've got ADHD. I can handle 17 things happening at once. Not a problem. And so, but they are driven by, how can I be home with my kids and still make a great income? And so I have just found, because I used to coach anybody, but I realized that a VA business is really like the really great industry that I can teach, because they can be from home, right? We can use the internet. We can tap into our strengths and assist business owners. And I've been a business owner. I've been in tons of coaching programs with business owners. So I've had a lot of conversations about what they're frustrated about, what they struggle with, whatever. So I understand that. So I can teach the
Hmm.
VAs, listen, this is where they're coming from. This is what they're dealing with. They've got a million irons in the fire. They've got lots of projects. They don't necessarily like finishing them. They like the creativity. Yes, sometimes they're a hot mess. Sometimes they've got ADHD, whatever. Maybe they struggle with numbers, whatever it is, but you get to be the missing piece. So I can empower them by really understanding who they're going to serve. And so they sign up with me. There's an initial course that takes about 6 months that they're committing to learn the skills of being a VA, what business owners need. Sometimes they come from, a corporate background. Well, that doesn't always translate to business owners, online, entrepreneur type. I got to teach them things like Slack and Google Docs, and, they're like using Outlook. I'm like, no, we don't use Outlook around here. Like, there's just different tools, right? And Canva and things like this. So I teach them those skills, and I teach them how to find clients. So I teach them marketing skills. So about 50% of their clients, when I poll my members, they get about half their clients on their own from the marketing I've taught them, but they get
Hmm.
half their clients through matches through me because people hear, oh, Jen, you teach VAs. I need a VA, right? And it's hard to know, who do you trust? How do you hire a VA? Do you
Right.
want somebody overseas that's, yeah, cheaper, but there's a language barrier, there's a time difference barrier. They often need to be told exactly what to do. Where the VAs I'm training, they've got critical thinking. They're going to come in and partner with you. They're going to help you problem solve. You're going to dump your mess and they're going to go, oh, well, I know we could do this tool or this automation, or what if we did this, or what if we organized it this way. They're able to do their magic. So it's not just you delegating straight tasks, but they're more, if you know the term OBM, online business manager, they're more of a manager for you.
Mm.
And so when you're trying to find somebody you trust, people will come to me and go, okay, well, I trust you, Jen. Like, who do you recommend? And I don't recommend VAs until they've made it through my program. There's a certification process. I have got to meet with them personally. I'm coaching them, I'm getting to know them. So it's not just a course that they're taking on their own. It's very interactive. They have assignments that they do, and my team checks their work. So again, a lot of visibility. We're like, hey, we're your first client. So organize this spreadsheet, or set up this Google Doc, or do this copywriting, or design this newsletter. All these different types of things, and then we check it and we approve it, so we know they're doing good work. Or maybe they lean more analytical, or they lean more creative. We're really getting to know them. So then when people request a VA from our academy, I can give my best recommendation because I really truly know them. So I have a directory. You can just go check it out. You can just contact any VA. However, you never know if their hours are full, right? So it's best to fill out the form, request a VA through me, tell me what you need, and then I look at my academy. I go, hey, who's interested in this? Who resonates with even the business, right? What type of work it is, what they need done, what the personality is of the seeking business owner. And then they'll raise their hand. They'll go, me. And I get all the people interested, but then I look at it and I go, okay, what are their strengths? How are they wired? I know them.
Hmm.
And then who's this business owner? What do they need? And I give them 3 to 4 recommendations. Then the business owner goes, they contact them, interview, talk. I'm not in the middle. I don't take a cut. I don't take a percentage. It's just a benefit of the academy because it benefits everybody, right? It benefits the business owners, it benefits the VAs. And then the VAs want to stay with me longer, of course, because they're getting leads, they're getting new clients, plus the support, right? They're able to come to us and go, has anyone ever had this happen? Or does anyone know if there's a weird update on Instagram? Like, what is happening? Does anyone know about this? There's constantly things changing in tech. So, by my members continuing to stay plugged into the academy, they're getting the newest up to date information, and they're getting each other's support, right? Like, what would you guys do in this instance? Or, my client needs this and I don't have any more hours. Does anybody else want to do it? That whole camaraderie, that community is so good for the business owners that hire them, but then also for them, especially because they might be a stay at home mom, right? Now you actually get people to talk to and, meet up with. And we have ongoing, almost weekly Zooms where we can talk. But, and then the mastermind, the higher level, they also get private coaching, which helps them go further, farther, faster, based on their individual needs. So, yeah, it's a
And
great,
then, and
great
this is all
program.
for the VAs, like
Yep.
your program, your
Yep.
education, your masterminds, all of that is
All
for
for
the
the VAs.
VAs. So for a business owner, a music school,
Mm-hmm.
that's maybe thinking of, hey, I need a
Mm-hmm.
VA, or a business owner,
Yep.
entrepreneur, I need a VA. Um, what what does it look like for like just kind of the
Yeah.
initial cost, and can
Mm-hmm.
are there different levels
Yeah.
of commitment? So is it like, can I just hire somebody? Like one of the
Yeah.
things, that the benefits of the whole, overseas VA
Mhm.
is that you can hire them
Right.
for as many hours or a few hours.
Yep.
So how is that
Yeah.
structured?
I mean, all my VAs maybe structure their business slightly differently, but everybody, I would say, you can start with, yeah, just a few hours a week. Like, just get started, see if you like each other, make
Mm.
sure that it's a good fit. There's no like long-term commitment or anything. Um, my matching services are free. So if you go to jenhickle.com/hire, then you can just get access to either a match, recommendations, the directory. But then some people will pay me for coaching, like help me understand my strengths and who I am and then who to hire. So that is a paid option. But as far as paying the VAs, you're looking at probably $25 an hour. Maybe I would recommend starting 5 hours a week. I say week versus month because a month can be long, and then the business owner will wait till the last second and want to use their hours. It's a hot mess. So think in weeks. Start small, make sure they're doing a good job, but then very quickly, usually business owners are like, this is better than I ever dreamed or hoped. And so then they add hours. Okay, can we bump up to 10 hours a week? Can we jump up to 15 hours a week? Or maybe you hire several VAs, right? So you've got one maybe doing all your graphics and all the design stuff that maybe you like in Canva, but you're just like out of time, or now it's not fun anymore, or whatever. You get, a team version of Canva, you add them to your team. You can be like, here's all the graphics that I created. Can you do more? Right. So then you've got your vibe, your branding, your colors, and then they're building off of it. Because when you're doing social media stuff, like it's like never ending content creation, right? So outsource that, right? Or,
Right.
maybe you have a separate VA for bookkeeping, you have a separate VA for, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many different elements of your business. And in fact, I really recommend never giving one person access to your full business, right? Like segment it out, right? So that not
Right.
everybody sees every piece, but get VAs who are really at the top of their game for this specific thing that you need done. I mean, you have a team of all stars. Like it's really quite amazing, honestly, the power of using VAs.
Right.
And your business can just expand and grow so much. I mean, specifically for music schools, performing arts schools, there's still a lot you can do virtually, like you can have somebody be doing your so okay, my parents own a theater company, my daughter-in-law works for them, so she does all that. She sells spots in their programs for advertising, so she's contacting all the advertising, she's doing all that, she does all the email communications from the students, she's doing all this from home. My son manages their website, so he's doing all the updates of new classes, the new if you have open enrollment coming up, if you've got performances, if you're selling tickets, right? Like if you're a dance studio and that cycle of like, we're buying costumes, now we're selling tickets, now enrollment's open for the next semester. It's never ending. But
Right.
that often is more effective to have somebody at home without the distraction of the kids coming in and I lost my water bottle and I got a new puppy. That front desk person
Right.
is actually interacting with kids and teachers, and there was a spill or the bathroom needs attention or whatever. That's a whole forward facing, like that's a role in itself. Who's on the back end? I would use a VA for your programs, for your design, for your marketing, your ticket sales, your updating the website. Like you could have a team of VAs on the back end and then just make your whole business stronger versus absolutely stressing yourself out or the on-site person because they're trying to jump back and forth between kids letting out of a class or students coming in for lessons or whatever it may be, and then they're also trying to get to the program and spell check. Like that's a lot to ask. And that's what I saw at the end of owning my music schools. We started doing more virtually. It's like, I got to split this up. The volume of 600 students coming through the door just isn't the same as when it was 100, 200, that it was quiet and they could make flyers for me or whatever. I'm like,
Right.
I got to have people at home getting some of this other admin stuff done or creating stuff done. So definitely like VAs can scale with you as your business scales, and they should. You should keep expanding as you grow and solving the next issue, solving the next problem by getting new people to help you. I don't know. That's just what I've always done, I guess. It's intuitive to me,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No, I think it's smart to think about dividing up the tasks
Mhm.
because I know for most people that are running hundreds of students, whether it's
Yeah.
600 or 400 or even 300,
Right.
the job behind the front desk starts to become like almost the only person that can do it is like some kind of purple unicorn. Like
Right?
there's so many different tasks that they have to
Yes.
juggle, and then they have to be good at sales and organize and all these things that are kind of like in conflict personality
Yes,
wise when you understand that.
exactly.
So you do have to start thinking of like, well,
Yes.
okay, let's not make them a salesperson and
Yes.
an accountant.
Yes.
You know,
Literally
maybe we
impossible.
should focus on one. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Oh, David, you just hit it. You hit the nail on the head because maybe we can get by at the beginning. by
Right.
using this purple unicorn type thing, or they anybody can do anything for a short amount of time. But when you keep having, it's very impossible to sustain. Like that's a lot to ask anyone to answer the phones, be the salesperson, and audit all the details, and post on social media for me. Remember to take pictures of the students. Like what? Their brain's going to explode, right? So yeah, how can we segment this? How can we decide these are different tasks for different wired brains, and who can we delegate it to? It would be way smarter to have 5 people working for you with fewer hours on everybody, and then use your extroverted salesperson relator, loves kids, can stand up to the teachers and the parents, will literally have a good presence. Use them at your front desk. Get
Yeah.
all the nerds in the background doing the details, the design, everything else that needs to keep going. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. No, I think and that's a hard thing, and years ago, I feel like I got some personally me, I got some poor coaching advice
Hmm.
that suggested that you need to find these purple unicorns, and those are the
Right.
only solutions for,
Yeah.
being able to scale and grow. And I
No,
just don't think that's
I
true. I
agree.
think that I like
Hmm.
what you're proposing here with,
Hmm.
like saying, hey, let's like let somebody be an expert
Yes.
at website and social media,
Yes.
and that's it,
That's it.
and that's okay. That's okay.
Yes.
That's all they have to do.
Exactly. And they're going to do it really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, towards the end of owning my school, I was like, no, I'm not doing the purple unicorn thing anymore. I'm not doing this. And it's not sustainable. So I totally agree with you. And if you're overwhelmed and you're listening to this, and you're like, I don't even know where to start with 6 working geniuses, honestly. Take that test. Where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you on the 6? Because it spells out widget.
And
Your
be
ID.
honest with
Be
yourself.
honest,
That can be the hard part.
and then start by hiring your working frustrations. Where are your
Mhm.
frustrations? If tenacity, which is the finishing, if that's your frustration, hire a finisher. Or maybe you'll say, "Well, that's my spouse." Okay, great. So how many spots do you have filled? What are you missing? Right? Start there. Or I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I could talk about this for hours and hours, and we don't
Yeah.
have hours and hours, but it's different for every person, which is why I like to customize the coaching, right? Like get the person in front of me. Where are you frustrated? What's working? What's not? What can we solve? How can we start slow? Start low and slow. Don't go hire 12 people, because that's a whole nother job of managing them, right? Just start with one, right? Make sure they understand your brain. Make sure they're not overwhelmed by you, right? And that's why I like the Colby, because you want to make sure your numbers aren't too far apart. Because you
Mm,
can't
mhm.
be super, super creative, which then that first number is going to be like a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then you get somebody super, super detailed, and their first number is 6, 7, 8, 9. They're going to look at you like you grew horns. And you're going to be like, what? What is wrong? But you guys can't speak the same language. So you have to get closer together. So you do need somebody who's pursuing details, but aren't so far apart that they're literally shaking because you're really pushing them to their limits. They want consistency, they want accuracy, and you need more flexibility, and you need to be able to vibe and change. So if you're like listening and you're like, I tried that and it didn't work because they were so detailed that they wouldn't let me have any creativity. Well, it's just the wrong person. You just got to try again. You just got to try again.
Right.
And a lot of times a manager has the middle numbers, because a manager can communicate with the more detailed people and the creative people. They can go back and forth between both. So if you've got somebody who's maybe really good at details, but you have a hard time talking to them, is there somebody you can put in the middle? Right? Is there somebody who can be kind of a translator? So it's very nuanced, but it's also very doable. And I just encourage people, like, if you've hired or you've tried a VA or whatever, it didn't work, don't write it off. Analyze what didn't work, what could be different, how could we try this differently, or reach out to me or whatever. Like, I'm happy to help you, like, assess that, because sometimes we get burned, right? We get burned and we go, never mind, I'll take it back.
Right.
Right? Like a bad babysitter, forget it, I'm never leaving my kids with anyone else again. Okay, well, is that sustainable? Like, you probably need somebody trustworthy, like, when you go to the doctor or something. So it's not just deciding I can't do this, but it's more like, what can we change? how can we, approach this differently? Or and also, if you're keeping pity hires, right? Like, I can't let go of it. It's my mother-in-law, it's my sister-in-law. Like, stop it. You can't do
Mm.
that, because you're only hampering your business. You're hindering your growth by keeping someone because you feel bad for them. Like, no, 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 no. That's a whole other issue, but it does come up a lot. So I just want to mention it.
So, as you look into the future, looking at the horizon, you're an entrepreneur, you're a creative.
Hmm.
What's on your mind? What's in the future? Where are you heading? What's next?
That is a good question. I mean, right now, I'm pleasantly surprised that my mastermind is taking off, and I see a future with really driven achiever types who want agencies. So they're virtual assistants, but they're like me, that they're growing and they're expansive. So that is exciting me. I also want to write more books. Um, I've got several brewing in my head, and I think it's helpful to have conversations like this, like almost like what does need to be birthed out into the world, right? Because I could write all day long, not an issue, but I want it to be the right book. I want it to be helpful. I want it to meet people. I don't know. I'm not sure what the next book is. I also love speaking. So now that my kids are graduated, I've been able to say yes to more live speaking things. I've been thinking about maybe starting like a monthly gathering thing of topics where we can, I think we need, like, we have the privilege of being online and connecting from anywhere, but like nothing beats in person, in the room with people, right? So sort of maybe like a networking something, but maybe aimed towards homeschool moms. I'm not sure, but I've been toying with that. Like, what could I do like once a month to gather people, connect them, and then of course advertise, different things that we offer. But I don't know. So those are some things that are maybe on the horizon, but we'll see. I don't ever plan too far ahead. I just let it unfold, and just take one next step at a time.
Jen Hickle, you're always such a pleasure to talk to and
Thanks.
full of wisdom and information and knowledge. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for being on here.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Always, always fun to hang out with you and talk.